Hello and welcome. Today I've been invited along to meet Damon Rollins, a man that has spent 20 years in the music business and then gave it all up in 1984. Now he's coming out of retirement with a new album. I'm going to be asking him the questions about his career for the first time ever. Things like the highs, the lows, the drinking, the drugs, the sex, the women, the 3 failed marriages and the music. First of all, just let me thank you for giving me this opportunity to come and meet you and speak about your past and your music. Now, we all know the legendary story of how you got your first guitar. But do you regret what you've done to get that guitar? No, I don't regret it at all. I mean, times were hard. You had to make do with what you could get. I mean, I only had the guitar a few days and I'd already written my first song, which was My Daddy's Haircut Makes Him Look Like Hitler. So some good did come out of it. Not to mention all the other great songs that I gave the world. You played your first gig when you were 18 and you played around many pubs and clubs, but it took until 1964 before you got picked up by a record label. Tell us about that, why it took so long, and tell us about your other albums. Well, back in them days, people wanted to hear cover versions, so that held me back a lot. For a long time I was playing Beatles songs. I did a lot of promotion for those guys back then. Those 4 guys from Liverpool probably wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for me. I was playing their songs night in, night out, and not so much as a thank you from them. I mean, they could at least give me a mention in the album, a thank you, or even just throw me a few pounds. But no, they didn't bother with that. Instead, George Martin gets all the thanks, he gets all the praise. To be fair, it was me who was the 5th Beatle, really. But whatever, you know, I don't really mind about that anymore. I've forgotten about it. I was picked up then by Refill Records and recorded my first album, The Dark Side of the Spoon. Now, don't even get me started on Pink Floyd. But anyway, the album done okay, but I think it would have done better if we had released the songs, the best songs of it, like A Jelly Kind of Love and Shark Attack in My Soup. My second album was a great album. It was called There's Nothing There That Can't Be Fixed with a Little You Know What in the Head Department. It was released in early 1967, and a few months later the Beatles released Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It was strange to me how the 2 albums sounded very alike. It's like the Beatles took my idea, what I was thinking in my head, and played it back to me. But anyway, at least my album has got the longest album title in the world record. You had 3 more albums out during the 70s and you did quite a bit of touring, including your massive worldwide tour, Way Over Yonder in a Minor Key. So what was life like during these times? It was a fantastic time. Everybody wanted a piece of you. There was drink and drugs everywhere. Endless amounts of women just wanted to have sex with you. But it wasn't all good. One day I woke up and I accidentally got married. I'd been out for a few drinks that night in Vegas, and well, I don't really remember what happened. All I remember is this girl was following me around for a few days, and I thought it was kind of strange. So I called the police, and the police came along, and they told me that we had gotten married. So that was my first divorce. Then in I think it was 1976, we were on tour with the A Nod's as Good as a Wink to a Blind Horse tour, and it happened again. Again, we were out, me and the band were out drinking, and well, somebody had given me some purple monkey. I hadn't taken acid before, so needless to say, it hit me quite hard. So I was there anyway, and we'd had a good night, and I can't really remember anything. We woke up the next morning, and there was a whole load of us, and we were in somebody's house, but I don't know whose house it was. But there was me, my drummer, the keyboard player, and some other random guy. So that other random guy just wakes up, and he walks over and he starts to eat a bit of pizza that's there, and then he starts choking. So I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, we're both naked, he's choking on some pizza, and the other two guys are just lying there sleeping. So I think, you know, I've got to give this guy the Heimlich maneuver. So I'll go over behind him, put my arms around him, and start pumping and giving him the Heimlich maneuver. And lo and behold, the front door opens, and my wife walks in, sees what's happening, but doesn't realise that I'm giving this guy the Heimlich maneuver. So she runs out the door, and she divorced me soon after. She never believed the story. Haven't really seen her since. Now, between 1976 and 1979, it was your worst period for drugs and drink. What do you really remember about this time? Well, we took all manner of drugs, and we were hanging out with all the big celebs of the day. One night, you know, in New York, I was drinking and I met John Lennon in a bar. We got to chatting and having a few drinks and whatnot. So John says to me, he was having some trouble writing songs, you know, at that time. I says to him, John, you know, why don't you strip it down and try and write something simple, like a peace kind of song about a brotherhood of man where people don't believe in heaven and hell. Something like that. Of course, at the time, John just kind of dismissed the song and didn't really think anything of it. But lo and behold, a couple of years later, what do you think happens? He releases Imagine. I rang him up, I said, John, you know, I pretty much wrote that song. Yeah, but he totally denied it, and he said he'd never met me. So I got nothing for that song, even though I practically wrote the thing. But anyway. Our last gig in 1977, it was a disaster. A real disaster. Mick, he was the keyboard player, he was off his head. He had taken some acid, and he decided he wasn't going to go on stage until he had 500 brown M&Ms in a brandy glass. So we had no M&Ms there at the venue, obviously. So I had to go out to the nearest shop I could find, and it was closed. So I broke in, and I found the M&Ms, and I started filling the brandy glass with the M&Ms. But the owner of the shop had been asleep upstairs. So he comes down and catches me. Now, I had taken a bit of acid before I left, so I wasn't in a right state. When the police came in and arrested me, apparently I was battering the guy with his own shoes. Moving on. Now, musicians that have played along with you have had a lot of bad luck through the years. Can you tell us about a few of these incidents? Yeah, well, Steve-O, our first rhythm guitar player, he uh, he had been with us from the start, and then in 1980 he was on a flight from one place to another. I don't know where, and the plane he was on crashed into another plane, and that other plane had our drummer on board. I mean that's just really unlucky, really unlucky. Well, we got a replacement drummer, no problem. But then I was doing interviews with people to become our new guitar player, and I was interviewing this guy, and basically I was crazy drunk, and both of us just got out of our heads drunk, and he, I told him he'd got the job. I didn't even check to see if he could play guitar. Turns out he couldn't. So we went on stage that night, and we got booed off pretty quickly. And what about your next guitarist, Ersa Neil? He was abducted by aliens. Now, you mentioned earlier about getting arrested for assault, but that wasn't the only time you were arrested, was it? No, I've been lifted a few times for silly wee things, really. I was on the old Purple Monkey again one night, and yeah, the police lifted me. They came along and I was shouting at a tree, naked. I was accusing the tree of having taken my cigarettes. Yeah, it didn't go down well. Yeah, one other night, I was walking home from a pub or something, or anyway, I was off my head and I punched a horse. But what I didn't notice was there was a policeman sitting on the horse. Yeah. Well, with your new album on the way, let's take a look back at some of the criticisms that have met your last album, Faster Than the Speed of Love. One critic wrote, "I say this with genuinely without bias. This person's time could have been spent better. I mean, at least make it funny." Another said, "How much self-loathing must one writer possess to subject himself to this project?" How do you respond to this? Well, they're just looking for things to complain about. I'm proud of all my music. The fact is, if it wasn't for people like John Lennon stealing all my material, I'd be a lot better off and a lot more respected. It's crazy how much he's gotten away with. Anyway, I mean, look who's still releasing music these days. You have Lady Gaga, One Direction, Busted, McFly, Miley Cyrus, Celine Dion, Rizzlecakes, James Blunt, Tiny Tempa, anybody from X Factor, Justin Bieber, Conor Maynard, Dizzy Rascal, Cher, and even Avril Lavigne. And they criticise my music? So why did you decide to come out of retirement now? Well, music is a gift, and I want to share my gift with the world and all the people in it. That and there's that and getting divorced again, which has cost me a lot of money. And you've been away from the public eye now since 1984. What have you been doing in that time? Well, there was once. I mean, drinking. A lot of drinking. And are you still drinking? Are you buying? So what can we come to expect from the new album? I've Been Fooled More Than Once. Will you be going in a new direction with it, or will it be the same sort of thing? No. God bless you, no, God, no. I only know rock and roll. That's all I can do. I can't be doing with any of this hippity hoppity with your puffy o daddy-os and your snoopy Snoop Dogs. Yeah, you can forget about that. It's only rock and roll for me. More drink, drugs, sex, and rock and roll. Do you think that will ever change for you? Well,